Hello, everyone. This is Dee Aquilin, and welcome to this special message that I'm so excited to present to you. You may hear my niece Brittany in the background chit-chatting away. I just left her room, and so she's just getting my attention, talking to me. But I want to say thank you so much for taking time. This happened at the last minute. Like yesterday morning, I was taking a bath and started thinking about, looking at my scar from surgery a couple of years ago. And this message started just downloading inside of me. And I was able to talk to, I actually put the post out. Latonja said that she was working on a message, a sermon actually, in the same thing that I was wanting to share about. So I asked her, could we come on live? So hello, Latonja. Thank you for
Hi,
being here.
Evelyn.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. I'm so excited about this message, and I just, we always are twin spirits, and one of the things that I wanted to say before we got started is that, well, let me do this first. There we go. One of the things that I wanted to say is, we've always had a connection and what we sometimes call twin spirits, where we have, connected in so many ways, but we not only have we been through a lot of similar things, but also we seem to get the same insight, the same downloads at times. And today or yesterday was the perfect example of that. So I just think that it's so amazing how God speaks to both of us about the same thing sometimes at the exact same time. It's just amazing to me. So with that,
Yeah.
welcome.
Yes, we are definitely kindred spirits, twin spirits. I do believe that we are divinely connected, always have been, always will be. And I'm just honored to know you. To know you is to love you because you are love. And I appreciate you so much.
Same here. I say all the time that you are my everything, my sister, my confidant, my friend, my God baby mama, all of that. And so
All of
I'm excited. I'm excited to do this with you. I was thinking about, we mentioned earlier when we were talking privately about the ministry that we had years ago called The Girl Within. And we
yeah,
were talking about the Mary J. Blige documentary,
yeah,
and how one of the things that stuck out to me was when she was looking back at a video of herself, and she said that, she called herself her baby.
yeah,
That's my baby. That's my little girl.
yeah.
And one of the things that we always used to say was that every woman has a girl within that needs help, that's crying for help. And we're in a position now as adults where we can go back and we can talk to that girl within.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The girl within was very special to me. It was in a season of my life where I finally recognized that there was a little girl that was within me, all while I was thinking I was all grown up and had it to get all together and all figured out. And, voila, life happened and it was a reality. And it was a wonderful healing process, the start of a lifelong healing journey, to be honest with you.
Yes, yes. So with that, I want to go ahead and get into some of since this is pretty much impromptu, I really don't have a flow to this. So
Hmm.
what I want to do is I want to share some of my notes that I took on wounds first, and
Okay.
let's talk about that, and
Okay.
then we'll get into scars later. One of the things that, well, I made actually several notes about wounds, simply because I was actually in the tub looking down at my scar, and I thought about the whole journey that I went through a couple of years ago with surgery, and all of the trauma, and just so much that I went through. Thank you number one, for being a part of that, helping me to go through that process. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that I definitely want to talk about, is having people around you that can help you heal, that can help you in the process.
Yes.
But I was thinking about that, and then I thought about how that wound, because it's so funny, because London was here yesterday over the weekend, and she asked me, she said, can I see the picture of your scar? And I was like, why you want to see that picture? Of all things that you want to see in my phone, I got like almost 6,000 pictures. Why do you want to see the picture of my scar? But she wanted to see it. And so I was thinking, I was like, man, that was a tough time. But that it reminded me of the wound that turned into a scar.
Mm.
And so many of us have wounds that we won't allow to turn into a
Mm.
scar.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So in my notes, this is what I have. Some factors about wounds. Number one is, and we can just discuss it as we're as I share. That number one is that they come in different forms.
Mm.
There are emotional wounds, there are mental wounds, there are physical wounds, there are relationship wounds, there are spiritual wounds. They come in different forms.
Yeah.
The second thing that I noted is that they come in many ways. So the first way that I have listed is unexpected outside forces, meaning that
Mm.
someone hurt you, or there's some devastation, there's some death, there's some disaster, there's some trauma, there's some abuse, you know, or physically you actually have an accident where you accidentally cut yourself, or maybe someone cuts you or someone shoots you or whatever. They come from unexpected outside forces. Another one, oh, and a part of that coming from unexpected outside forces is this too. Sometimes when they come from unexpected outside forces, it's not always intentional of that person to hurt you.
Mm. Mm. Wow, that's good.
People accidentally shoot people. People accidentally, whatever. It's
Mm.
not always intentional.
Woo, that's so good, D. Can I jump in right there for one
Yes,
moment?
ma'am.
Because that hit so heavy for me with a friendship circle that I had many years ago. An unintentional hurt caused what seemed to be a lifetime uh, of pain. Um,
Hmm.
and that right there, we just have to, I always say that I think we need to be so aware of our friends, our family and friends, that if the least bit of thing that happens outside of character should alert us that so and so is not their self right now, something is going on, instead of being so quick to take offense to a
Yes.
situation that might not have nothing to do with nothing.
Yes. Yes. Because we don't know what that person is going through. We just don't know.
Right, we don't.
Yeah. So I want to move on. The next thing that I have is that that was number two. I have a number.
Mhm.
My notes are all over the place, but I have a method to my madness. So the next thing about wounds is this: that some wounds are deep and some are shallow.
Mm, wow.
Number Number four is some wounds are internal and some are external. And I know when we did your call for talks with Tonja, we talked about
Yeah,
bleeding in public. And so
yeah,
and one of the things that was so powerful, what you said, is that some people experience internal bleeding,
yeah, yeah,
and it's not always external.
yeah. And
But
it's
it's the
I'm
same thing with our wounds. The wounds can be internal and
mhm.
or external.
And I'm laughing right now because here's that twin spirit thing again, because I jotted down a few notes prior to us talking and just having the conversation. And I know we haven't talked about scars yet, but I said the wound you can't see, but the scar is visible. And the wound is
Mm,
internal, but the scar is external. I'm like, wow.
wow.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
Another thing that I have listed is that some wounds heal quicker than others.
Yes.
And there are many different variants that play a part in this. Number one, we have to allow the healing.
Mm-hmm.
But also there are things that we have to do in the process of healing. I know when I was going through after that surgery, sometimes it would be you that would say, hey, just let God do what He's got to do in this process,
Mm-hmm.
or be still and listen and take notes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to listen to someone who been there,
Mm-hmm.
done that, so that I could get through it. And that was one of the things that helped me heal quicker, is by listening to someone that has been there, done that.
Yeah, absolutely. Wisdom, I often say wisdom doesn't always necessarily come with age. Wisdom comes with experience. And
Yes.
saying that experience is a good teacher. It's something else I wanted to add on to what you said about wounds. No one wound is alike. Um,
Yes.
you know,
Ooh,
my
yes.
myself, I've had 5 different abdominal surgeries, and no one wound is the same. The first wound doesn't look like the second wound. The incisions, and
Yes.
third doesn't look like the fourth. So no one wound looks alike. So that's why we can't look at people and assume that we know if they're healed or not.
Yes. And you know what's so powerful about what you just said too is not only are the wounds different, but the process of healing is different. Even though it may be in the same location, the same issue,
Come
the
on.
process to heal is
Yeah,
completely different.
absolutely. Absolutely.
My goodness. This is so good.
Yes. What
All right.
what revelation?
Yeah, yeah. And the last part was actually two more things that I have, some factors about wounds. The sixth one is that if not properly taken care of, some wounds become infected and
Hmm?
they require more care.
Yeah. Not
And
only
then
not only
I'm
that,
just,
not only infection, but some wounds have to be amputated. Oh, Jesus. Holy
you better
Spirit.
say it.
Yes.
They have to be cut off. Yes.
Yes.
And the reason why they have to be cut off is so that the infection won't spread
Come
and
on.
become fatal.
Come on, Holy Spirit. Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
My God.
Wow. But here's the thing, are we willing to allow the amputation to take place? Because so many people want to hold on to the infected wound
Mm-hmm.
because they are attached to it. It's a part of their story. It's a part, or some people just don't even want to heal from it,
Mm-hmm.
or even not necessarily want to heal from it. Also, some people don't know how to heal from it.
Here's another thing. The wound is familiar.
Yes.
You're familiar with.
It's a friend. Yeah, it's a friend. People become acclimated to being in pain and hurting,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want to let that go.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be mindful that
And again, it
uh
goes
in
back
order
to the
in
wound. Again, it goes back to the wound being internal, which means that there's some self-healing, some self-help that needs to be addressed and dealt with first.
yes. Yes, absolutely. But again, you have to be willing to face that. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
willing to go within and listen to that and hear that in
Mm-hmm.
order in order to heal it, rather. Listen to God in order to heal that.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta be
And
willing
my last,
to work.
go ahead, I'm listening.
No, I said you gotta be willing to do the work.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And my last point or factor about wounds is that they are painful.
Ooh, my.
They are painful. But you know what? I wrote in my notes, I'm going to skip ahead of myself, that pain is a necessary part of the process. I remember when I was going through that pain, I would often say if the pain would stop, if the pain would go away. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember that my body needed the pain, because the pain really was indication that the healing was taking place.
Yes. Yes.
It
Yes.
wasn't it wasn't necessarily indication that the wound had occurred. I knew the wound had occurred. I already knew. I signed up for the surgery. I laid there. I had the surgery.
Hmm.
So it wasn't an indication of that. The pain was an indication that the healing was taking place. You
Yes.
know, that those molecules and all of that stuff was gathering back in
Yes.
place, and trying to pull my body back together from this, well, I don't know how many inch scar it is, or was wound that it was, but that was the pain was indication that the healing was taking place. And when I relaxed into that truth,
Mm-hmm.
then actually the pain became just a little bit more bearable.
Yeah, listen, when my son was a toddler, and even now, if he would hurt himself, he would say, "Oh, mama, I hurt myself. It hurts." And I would tell him, I said, "Son, pain is only temporary. We don't have to
Hmm.
live in the pain. We don't have to stay there forever. It's as temporary as we make it. As soon as we make it untemporary, then we can heal. We can start to heal."
Yes, yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what we have to understand. I think that a lot of times we get so caught up in what's happening that we tend to take our focus off of this is a part of the process, and the end result of the process is that I'll be healed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to share about wounds?
No, 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 no. It's flowing perfectly.
Yay. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the things that I wrote, some factors about scars. The number one factor for me was that scars are indicative that the wound existed.
Mm, that's good.
And for all of us, especially African American women, we all have probably a scar on our knee,
Mm-hmm.
where we fell, or we got a scar on our leg somewhere where we fell and we got a scar that proves that we had an open wound on our leg
Yeah.
or on our knee, on our elbow, on our body somewhere. And when you look at that, you look at that scar, you see it, but it's just an indicator that that wound, that you actually hurt yourself,
Yeah.
that something happened to you. That's what
Yeah.
it's indicative of.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking also that the scar serves as a reminder, but you have to look at it in an optimistic point of view, because the scars that remind you that you overcame something, that you went through something that was so traumatic that it took time. It took a process for it to heal. You got to see that scar transition and go from flesh to scalp, and so
Yes.
you get to experience that journey of healing. And when you look back at that scar, you can look back and say, I made it through something. I'm more than a conqueror. I survived it.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm a warrior.
Eh,
Ooh,
right. And that leads to number two. The second thing that I wrote was that scars are proof that you endured the pain and you endured the trauma.
yep, that's it.
Now, not only did you endure, but you survived it.
That's it.
You're on the other side of it. I survived it. And I know that we're talking about wounds and scars, and we're talking from a physical perspective, but it relates to so much. I want you to talk about, because we both been in abusive relationships.
Hmm.
For me, I've only been in one physical abusive situation, but I was also in an emotionally abusive marriage. So
Hmm.
I want you to talk about how you were able to process and heal through the emotional trauma that you went through in dealing with domestic violence.
So that part, well, first of all, it eventually I recognized that it had become a cycle in my life, that I would go from one abusive relationship to the next, not really knowingly doing it, but because I was so unemotionally stable and traumatized, by life, I just didn't recognize it. I overlooked it, always trying to see the good in others. Um,
Mhm.
so to be wounded and scarred by a person that you love, that
Mhm.
to me is one of the worst kind of emotional attachments that you could go through. This is a person that you would literally give your last breath to, and to have
Right.
a person to violate you and manipulate you and use narcissistic behavior to control you, that's a scar that is very visible because it's always in your mind, and your mind
Right.
can actually see the visions of those repressed memories or those memories that accumulated during that time. So you got this very big, scar that is so visible, and the wound, it it although it goes through a healing process. Sometimes we might have surgery, and if it rains, we can feel the pain in that
Yes.
incision. We can say, oh, it's gonna rain because my incision hurt, or my knee hurt,
Right.
whatever. That wound, you can feel that wound always. There's always like a little trigger. Any little thing that can remind you, that triggers you, can get that wound to start pulsating. um
Yes.
so for me, I had to go through a mental detox. I had to do a mental dump of everything in my life that literally hurt me, that I can remember from childhood up until my adult age.
Yes.
um that was very intense. It was almost like it sucked the life out of me, um
Right.
because there are just some things you just don't want to remember, and there are actually some things that you just don't remember. uh
Right.
I
That's
was
true.
molested as a child. There are certain things I can remember, and there are other things that I can. And I just today I said, thank you, God, for not allowing me to have memories of that, because I don't know what it would feel like to ride past the house that it happened in. Every house that I lived in as a child is torn down, not because the neighborhood is being revitalized or anything like that, but every house that I lived in is torn down. So I said, God, you really didn't want me to remember certain things. You know,
Yes.
I had to find the good in the bad.
Yes.
Once I did that, I was able to properly heal, and properly healing took me going to sit on someone's couch and get professional help to break down and say, you know what, girl, you can give everybody else advice, you can help everybody else with their problems, but who gonna help you with yours? You need to go sit down on somebody's couch and let this stuff go.
Yes.
It was so bad to the point I diagnosed myself as, clinically depressed, and I wasn't even diagnosed as depressed at all. I was diagnosed with severe anxiety, and it
Right.
related from childhood trauma. So we have to be careful when we try uh to take care of the wound ourselves. Sometimes we got to give that wound over to somebody to help us heal through that process.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's something that I want us to talk about really quickly and just encourage anyone that's listening to this message, because I just want you to understand that it's okay to get professional help.
Absolutely.
It's okay. You need it. We all need professional help. We all need to talk to someone who has a degree or has, the technology, the scientific technology, the medication, whatever, to help us to heal. Because there are some things we absolutely cannot do on our own. And yes, you have faith in God that God will heal you, that God will, make you whole and all of that. Absolutely. But you still in the process of becoming whole, you get the help that you need in that process.
Amen.
So another thing that I have about scars is that some scars disappear over a period of time, while others can disappear like really quickly.
Yes.
Some scars, you cut yourself on the hand. If it's a shallow scar, it'll be gone in about a week or two. But
Yes.
it's the deep scars are sometimes the ones that stay the longest. And that's something that we have to understand. When you're looking at people and you see that people are acting out, or people are saying certain things or doing certain things, that person may have a deep wound or a deep scar that has healed, but it's still affecting them in some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
You said this earlier, that they serve as a reminder that you are healed and that you survived.
Yes.
But I also think too, or not think, no, too, that they also serve as a reminder of the past.
Yes.
And for me, what I've learned over the years is that there is nothing wrong with remembering the past. It's just not going to live in the past.
Right.
And I believe a lot of people are wanting to live in the past. They're recalling
Mm-hmm.
like you have the scar, but you're treating the scar like it's a wound.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that we have to learn to release the wound in our head. Our thoughts. Our thoughts are a wound, and we have to learn how to
Yes.
release those thoughts, because once we release those thoughts, we free ourselves up to heal.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Release the wound in our head, because we carry the memory and the thought of what happened more so than honoring the process and honoring the space that we're in. Now that it's over, I'm no longer there. I always like to say it this way. I heard another coach say this, but she says it happened, but it is not happening
That's good.
right now.
That's
But
good.
a lot of people look at it as if it's happening now, but it's not happening now. It happened. And so now you have a chance to rewrite in your story and create a new narrative that, yes, it happened. It's not happening now. And I'm healed. I'm whole. I'm healthy. I have my mind. I have my body. I have my health. I have, start counting your blessings, as opposed to recounting the situation that happened.
Right.
Because think about it, like we were talking about both of us having surgeries, and you've had multiple surgeries and I've had a couple of surgeries. If we still are in that mindset and in that space, we wouldn't be here right now sharing with other people.
Mm-hmm. I often say, we have to get ourselves out of the ICU into the recovery room. We
Yes.
can't stay in intensive care forever. At some point, we
Yes.
got to we got to raise up our bed, and we got to walk. We got to get to the recovery room so that we can start putting one foot in front of the other, because that's what they do in recovery. They Once they get you out, they tell you, you need to walk so that you can heal. You got to put one foot in front of the other. You got to take some steps and take some strides and some leaps and some bounds so that you can get to your final destination.
Yes. Yes. My goodness. So my niece, hey Tessa, Tessa is in the chat and she said, right, I can't go forward looking backwards. That's something that I say
Yeah.
all the time. You cannot walk backwards and forward at the same time. It's
No,
impossible for you to do both. So you have to choose a direction.
that's right. And that's why the
And
eyes are in the front and not behind us.
yes, because we're supposed to move forward with our
Yes,
lives.
yes, we are.
So I have my friend, Lady Stephanie. She commented, because I'm actually posting on my Facebook page as well. And she said, oh, so much I'm thinking about with this verse. It's like wounds equals broken and scars. Wounds equals broken and scars equals healing. She says, funny how scar for life is a negative term, but if scars are indicative of healing, or even the process of healing, it seems as if the term would actually have a positive connotation.
Mm, that's
Isn't
good.
that something? Because
That
we say that all the time, scar for life,
thought
scar for
provoking.
life. Right, but it's not a negative thing to be scarred for life if scarred equals healing. And it equals healing. But so that brings up another point then. wounds and scars carry the meaning that we give it.
Mm.
I think that they carry the meaning that we give it. And that goes back to some people wanting to hold on to the
Mm-hmm.
story of what happened, or not wanting to let it go because of the story that they're telling themselves. A lot of people think that having a scar is a bad thing. They think that having a scar means that you failed, or having a scar means that you were hurt. Absolutely, it means you were hurt. Absolutely, it means all of these things, but it also means that you're on the other side of that. You're in the healing place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Tasha.
And
Tasha said good evening.
good evening. Hey, Tasha. Yeah, I think that we don't want to deal with the hurt.
Yeah.
We just want the scar to just cover the wound. And that's not
Yeah.
the scar.
Right. You better say that.
That's not the purpose
Oh,
of
we.
the scar. You know,
Right.
the wound hurts. So we gotta hurt before we heal. That's an old blues song that my mom and daddy used to listen to. You know, that's the way love work. You gotta hurt before you heal. Uh,
Right.
we just want to put the scar on and and we want to put a band-aid on top of the scar because we don't want it to look ugly. We want it to look pretty. No, it gotta look ugly. You gotta look ugly and go through that process.
Yes, absolutely. You have to. You know what? And that's the thing. I keep going back to the surgery because that's the most recent thing in my life that was
Mm-hmm.
was really devastating. But one of the things that I would always do every morning, there was a scripture that I read. I can't remember. Is I started reading through Psalms,
Mm-hmm.
and in one of the Psalms, and maybe the first Psalms chapter 4 or something,
Mm-hmm.
David says that he said, I cry out to you and I expect you to hear me. Like I expect, he was saying, I expect you. And so I started saying every day, I expect to be healed. And what I started doing was I started paying attention to the people around me. And the people around me were saying, I remember when you were a person like that. I had some sitters that was telling me, I remember when I had this and when this was going on and when this was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it my goal. I told my God sister, I said, my goal is to get to that I remember when place in my life.
Yeah.
And now I can go back and say, I remember when, and I can say it now. Now let me just say this, because when I first started saying I remember when, I was still traumatized. And so
Yeah.
I would say I remember when and still crying and
Yeah.
still in pain, because my mind was still attached. Even though my body was healing, my mind was still attached.
Mm-hmm.
But now that my mind and my body are both free of the wound and the trauma that was related to all that I endured during that time, now I can say I remember when, from a space of I'm on the other side. Like
Yeah.
I'm free. I'm joyful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I went through that, because it made me stronger. It made me realize how resilient I am. It
Yeah.
made me realize that God would never leave me nor forsake me. It made me realize so many things about
Mm-hmm.
myself.
And here's the thing, when you get to that place, you have to be very careful of distractions, because people will try to constantly remind you of your past, who you were, what you used to do. And the real problem is they don't see the healing or the transition or transformation that is taking place, because they can't feel your wound. They can't feel your scar, so they can't feel your healing either.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so good.
Yeah.
So let me just share one last point that I have about some, scars. And the last point that I made about scars is that some scars still carry the pain of the wound,
Mm.
because there are some times where you can touch a scar if it's not,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's healed properly, there are sometimes you can touch it in a certain space and it's
Mm-hmm.
tender,
Yeah,
you know.
it's called tender to touch.
Right. And so they still carry that pain or that tenderness. And for me, what it does for me is it's a gentle reminder
Mm-hmm.
that this is still a spot or a place in my life that still, I still hold dear to
Yeah.
me, even though I'm healed from it. Even though I've overcome it, I still hold this spot dear to me because in this pain, in this
Yeah.
situation, it taught me so much about myself.
Yeah, it's a warning sign. Fragile, handle with care.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. And it's okay to be fragile. It's
yes,
okay. I think that we want to be so strong all the time. We
yes.
want to be so, you know, so
Fragile,
stand so
fragile
much
things
in.
are expensive.
Yes.
Fragile things are
Priceless.
yes,
Priceless.
yes,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think about the what they used to call them, those Fabergé eggs,
yes.
you
That's
know,
in my
and how they,
yes.
yeah. Do you have anything else you want to share about scars?
No, ma'am. I am just, I mean, this conversation has really blessed me. I'm so encouraged by it, and I'm more so encouraged just to see the healing that has taken place between the both of us over the years. Like, God is
Yes.
so awesome. There are so many spots that have been touched and healed, and it's just a very good place to be, a very good
Yeah,
friend to be in.
absolutely. So with that, I want to give, I like to give resolutions. That's what I like to call them in my classes. But I want to talk about your power to turn your wounds into scars because we do have that power.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have written, and I guess we can just go over these like we've been doing talking. But that is number one, don't hide your wounds.
Mm-hmm.
I remember still going back to the surgery, but this is going back to a lot of things that I've been doing in my life, talking about not hiding. Actually, I can go back to the girl within when we were doing the girl within. One
Mm-hmm.
of the things that we always encouraged the women was to tell their truth and
Yes,
don't be ashamed of their truth, you
yes.
know. And a lot of times what people want to do is they want to hide it. They want to, and it's not that it's wrong, not that it's wrong that you want to hide it. I think sometimes people want to hide it to protect it, but sometimes you need to open it like a simple cut in your finger.
Mhm.
You know, it's one at one point you need to cover it up, but then after so long you have to open it,
Mhm.
let it breathe, let it get the air that it needs so that it can heal properly.
I keep
So I
hearing
think
words. I'm sorry. I keep hearing these
go
words
ahead.
that we have to heal like we've never been broken.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Keep hearing those words that we have to heal like we've never been broken.
Wow. That's powerful. Oh my, I need to sit with that for a second. Because you know what? We tend to carry the same story, like I just talked about earlier. The
Mhm.
same story from the person that broke us, the person that hurt us,
Yep.
or the situation, um, over and over and over again. And we want to heal the same way, but we talked about earlier, we can't.
All right. Right.
Oh my goodness, that was a good one. Yes, I'm posting that one. I'm posting that one. So the next thing too is that I have in my notes is we also have to give our wounds the attention that they need. So not just not hiding them, but giving them the attention that they need. For a physical wound, especially if you've had surgery before, there are certain care that you have to do. You know, you have to clean it, you have to dress it, you have to
Mhm.
at one point take the bandage off, and you have to do certain things, and then you go to the doctor, and if you have staples or stitches or whatever, they remove them.
Mhm.
Then they put tape sometimes, or you may have tape and they remove the tape,
Mhm.
whatever, but it's a process. And so in the process we have to give the process the attention that it needs.
Yeah, we have to be willing to be worked on.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to, not only do we have to be willing to do the work, but we also have to be willing to be worked on. Sometimes we always want to be the ones to give the advice and to give the, testament of what we've gone through. But we also have to be mindful that there might be times when other people see things in us that we need to work on and that we need to heal or visit. So we have to make sure that we work on ourselves as well.
Yes, absolutely. And be okay with working on ourselves.
Yes. Don't feel guilty about our healing.
Yes, because people will make you feel guilty that you are healing. The people that are hurting and broken don't want you whole.
Right.
And so they will try to make you feel guilty about your healing.
Absolutely.
The next thing that I have is, we talked about this already, pain is a necessary part of the process. And I have in my notes, because something that a young Lavanzant said a long time ago, that pain, PAIN, stands for paying attention inward now.
Mm.
And that's exactly what we have to do. When we feel pain, I don't care if it's a headache or if it's a heartache, stop and pay attention inward now,
Mm-hmm.
because that's important.
Mm-hmm. And going back relating to the surgeries, they put you on pain medications and they try to tell you to catch it before the pain even starts. So
Yes.
we have to be mindful of catching stuff before we even allow the pain to go there. Stop that thought before it even captivates us. Don't speak it out your mouth before the words can even come out. We have to learn how to, work through that.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I love that. Don't you have to capture the thought and do it before the pain actually starts to get
Yeah.
intense.
Yes.
Because once it gets intense, you all in your mind.
Yes.
You're all in your mind, your feelings, your everything. I'm talking about physical
I
pain,
mean,
emotional pain,
the
everything. When
devil
it
working
gets
triple
intense,
overtime. The devil is
yeah,
overtime.
right. You get really overwhelmed with that. And then it really becomes harder to manage when you're in the thick of the pain.
Yes, it does. That's like a toothache. If you don't catch that sucker before it start aching, oh, you in big trouble. And it can cause
Right.
all kinds of stuff. It can cause it can cause brain aneurysms. People have died from a
Hmm.
simple toothache. So you gotta catch that thing, while you ahead, and don't let it
Yes.
take over, because when it take over, it's
Right.
spread like a fire in the fire. I mean, fire in the
Right.
fire. It's in the wildfire.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's the thing. If we don't take care of it, it will spread. And that's where hurt people,
Mm-hmm.
broken people
Mm-hmm.
break other people. Because when you're hurt and when you're broken, all you can do is act out. All you can do is, bring the other person, the closest person to you, down to where you are. That's what people do. It's almost like you're clawing to survive, but you're not really surviving.
Listen, in 2020, during this pandemic, we got to be careful what we pray for.
Hmm.
And my prayer was for God to help me to get control of my emotions. Because I'm a big
Hmm.
emotional person, and I'll fly off the handle sometimes because of my emotions. And I say, okay, God, I want you to work on me. I want you to get my emotions in check. And so I started going through some of the most devastating hurt of my life with friendships, right at the end of 2020, coming into 2021. And I'm going, why is this happening all of a sudden? Like, I've never been in this place. I've never been through this. Like, don't get me wrong. I done fell out with people before, but I never had this kind of intense hurt, or, felt this kind of way about it. Well, guess what? God reminded me. He said, you wanted to get your emotions in check, right? So I was helping you check your emotions.
Right. Wow. And are we willing to allow God to help us, even when we pray for stuff? Are we really ready? And a lot of times we're not ready, but every time that God does something like that, it always benefits us.
Yeah.
I'm going to read Tessa. Tessa says, stop it before it starts. That's the battle. That's when we should start telling the issues, the pain, how big our God is. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking scriptures of the past defeated pain. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Another thing that I have in my notes is that we shouldn't ignore the pain, and we don't have to go in detail because we just talked about that. but I also have Turn It Into Something Powerful. And
Ooh.
I want to use this moment to talk about, so ladies, if you have not watched the Mary J. Blige documentary on Amazon Prime, I highly recommend it.
Yes, please
She,
do
she,
so.
yes, she's celebrating the 25-year anniversary of her amazing album, My Life. And so she talked about where she was during that time. And what's so ironic when I watched that,
Mm-hmm.
because she was talking about how that she was in so much pain when she wrote that album.
Mm-hmm.
But did you pay attention to how everybody around her was in pain at the
Oh my,
same
oh
time?
my God! I was just about to say, but the people around her was also in pain. Oh, oh my
And what
God!
happened was, instead of them having a pity party,
Yeah.
instead of them, talking about
Mm-hmm.
the pain in a negative way, they turned it into something powerful and created her best work to date. She's had some great songs and albums, since then, but that's still iconic
Mm-hmm.
and probably her best ever work.
Mm-hmm.
But it came out of her pain, and that's why I say you have to turn your pain into something powerful.
Mm-hmm. She let me see. I wrote something down. Hold on. Mm-hmm. It was a man that was one of the interviewees, and he said something to this extent. He said, "You're looking at my life like it's all good, but my life sucks too." That hit me so heavy because so many times, so many people are on the outside looking in at what looks like a good life or what looks like maybe good, but you don't have no idea what's going on behind the closed doors.
Yes.
And she was enduring a lot. She was being so, so visible in the public eye that she was enduring so much, in a private life.
Yes. Absolutely.
And when it initially came out, that's why it was so shocking to the world. And I often say this, um, being a Christian and being in the church and things of that nature, I think that's the problem with a lot of Christians, is that we portray the perfect life. We make it seem as if we don't go through anything, that we don't have private struggles, and when we do have them, we want to keep them private because we're so afraid of somebody seeing the raw us, the true us, the real uncut us. And we put on these facades, and then when it does finally, when the funk finally hit the fan, then you're embarrassed and you don't want people to talk about you because I'm human, everybody. Well, you're not displaying that. You're not saying that you're human, because when you cut, you don't want to bleed openly.
Yes.
You have to be careful when you bandage your cut. Sometimes you have to wrap it a certain way because you don't want to cut off the blood circulation, the blood.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of I think they call it the iceberg effect or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
where you only see what's on the surface,
Mm-hmm.
but below the surface, that iceberg is so much bigger,
Mm-hmm.
5, 10 to 100 times bigger than what you see on the surface.
Absolutely.
And even in that, what you were just saying about people that try to portray that they have their life all together and things like that. I've learned over the years that those are sometimes indicative of people that's in the most pain, or the people that's the most insecure. The people that
Mm-hmm.
are struggling the most are the ones that refuse to really live out loud. I
Mm-hmm.
know that was me for a long time. I'm normally, this about me. I think everybody that's listening that knows me personally know that I'm a super extremely private person.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't share a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
But also on the flip side of that, if you ask, I don't mind telling. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, for a long time, I think that was the disconnect with me, and I'm gonna say my audience and the people that I was connecting with, was because I was so private about my life. And I realized that I was private not just because I'm a private person, but for me, it was because I was also trying to hide some pain and things that I was going through that I didn't want people to see. And let me just say it this way. I didn't want people to judge me.
Yeah.
You know,
Let me tell you, it's a clear indication that you're healing when you cannot make it about you. When you can stop making everything about
yes,
you, when you can stop making it that everybody jealous of me, everybody hating on me, everybody don't like me, everybody talking about me. When you can get that, when you can get me out the way and you can realize that it's bigger than you, that's a clear indication that healing is taking place.
right. That's so true. That you preach that one. That is so true.
Trust me, I
Because that's what we
preach it. Whew.
right. And that's the thing. And that's why I always love you so much, because you really do preach and teach what you live.
Absolutely.
So I got a couple more things that I want to talk about really quickly. I want the people who's listening to this, even though we're talking about wounds and scars, the truth is that we're already whole. We're already healed.
Mm, mm,
We're already whole. We're already healed. There are processes. Life happens, pardon me, life happens, conditions happen. Like I said, sometimes it's outside conditions that happen, sometimes it's self-inflicted conditions and things that happen. But the bottom line is, when God looks at you and God sees you as already whole and healed. God does not see you otherwise. So, pardon me, another thing that we need to talk about is really how you see yourself. Because if you see yourself as a person that's always wounded, the person that's always hurting, the person that's
mm.
always in pain, then that's what you're going to project out there. And that's how people are going to receive you. That's how people are going to view you. You know, I was actually looking at an article, pardon me, in we get People magazine. I don't know how we get it, but we get People magazine. But I was looking at the cover of the most recent People magazine. There was Jennifer Aniston.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about how she's moved on. And I thought about that. I was like, that's been her narrative. Her whole career is moving on beyond a relationship. She has to be so much more than that. You know what I'm saying? So I said that to say that, how we see ourselves is what we project out there. And that's how people receive us. That's how people view us. That's how people, that's the story that people tell about us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be mindful of how we see ourselves. And if God sees us as whole, if God sees us as healed, then we also have to see ourselves that way, in the midst of the pain, in the midst of the crying, in the midst of the hurt, the disappointment, and all of that. You have to see yourself as whole.
Mm-hmm.
I know you know this, but every time someone comes to me and say, hey, I'm not feeling well, I'm sick, or whatever, I say these words to them. I say, you are healed, healthy, happy, and whole.
Yep.
I say that every time, because one of the things that I learned is, if I'm going to pray for you to be healed, if I'm going to pray for you to be whole, I have to see you as healed, healthy, happy, and whole. Not see you in the hospital bed, not see you sick, not see you, about to die, or in a bad relationship, or being, abused or whatever. No, I have to see you as God sees you, and God sees you as healed, healthy, happy, and whole.
Amen.
And so that's how we have to start seeing ourselves.
In one of your sessions, in one of your classes, these words stuck with me, and I hold dear to them every day of my life now. And you said, the change that I seek begins with me.
Yes.
And every time I would look at myself in the mirror, that is what I would tell myself. Tonja, the change you seek begins with you. Your healing begins with you. Being made whole begins with you. Being positive begins with you. Being happy begins with you. Having joy begins with you. Being love and giving love begins with you. So everything begins with me. So that's why we have to learn to deal with the enemy in me.
Yes. And that reminds me, I'm trying to look through our chat from earlier, because I had quoted something that Mary J. Blige said in that documentary. She said,
My good is God.
it was about, no, I think it was before that. Oh, she said, I didn't know she said, I didn't know I was me.
Yeah.
And what she was saying is she didn't know that she was who she is today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have to really cast a vision for ourselves
Mm-hmm. And
and hold on to that vision.
can I say this right quick? Not only
Mm-hmm.
that, but sometimes we didn't know the me in who we were.
Right.
We
Yes.
look back as she did with this documentary, and I'm sure there's some things she said, oh my God, I can't believe that was me. I can't believe I did that. I
Right.
can't believe that's who I was, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And let me say this. When you look back from that perspective, it's not a place to judge yourself or to be harsh on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place to say, I was doing the best I could
Yes.
in that moment.
Yes.
And that's what we have to understand about ourselves. We can only do what we can do in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And whether we deem that as good or bad or whatever, is what we could do in that moment. I
Mm-hmm.
say this all the time, that your mistakes are tools for mastery. In
Mm.
other words, you can learn from every mistake that you make, and
Yes.
you can better your life from that. So
Yes.
even if you look back and you say, hey, I wasn't happy with the person that I wasn't happy with the thing that I did then, but I learned a lesson. And
Yes.
if you learn the lesson, you've mastered that part of yourself.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And the last thing that I have noted is this, that you are not your wounds and your scars. They are
Amen.
they are a part of you. They are a part of your story. They are a part of your narrative. They are a part of maybe why you're here. But it is not, they are not who you are.
So very good. So good.
Yay!
So good.
Yay! Thank you. Do you have anything you want to add or share
No,
or talk about?
having me. Just thank you for having me. I love doing this with you. I think we make a great team, and I
Absolutely.
enjoyed this discussion.
Yay, we'll have to do it again. I'm so grateful that God spoke this same message to both of us. Like, that was so divine. And
Yeah.
then to get a chance to really talk it through.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I want to thank every person that's watching. Thank you for the hearts. I
Thank
see the hearts.
you.
Thank you for every person that's watching, whether you are now here live or whether you're going to watch the recording. We are so honored that you joined us. And I look forward to more of these in the future. So
Yes.
thank you again. I send
My
love,
wheels
light,
are
peace, and
spinning.
blessings to everyone. Say that again.
I said my wheels are spinning.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about it. Yay. But I send love, light, peace, and blessings to you all. I always leave with this hashtag, or not really hashtag, tagline. That's what I'm trying to say. And that is this: you are great in Christ and you are powerful beyond measure. You have to know that, you have to believe that, but more than anything, you have to live that. Live in your power. So, with that, take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Good
I
night.
love you all. Good
Love you.
night.
Good night.